Salutations, second graders, and welcome to our Read Aloud for Chapter 14, Cover the Back. Go ahead and get out your books, The Case of the Dognapped Cat. We're going to begin on page 133, Chapter 14, Cover the Back. Mark and Travis backtracked until they reached the drop cloths. They checked 3 until Mark found one that was worn and softened enough for his purpose. He held it up, letting it flap gently. Understanding dawned in Travis's eyes. "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" he asked, grinning. "Uh-huh," Mark replied. "Samson has that guy spooked, literally. The man is scared out of his mind already. If we attach this cloth to the pulley that swings down from the loft to the warehouse floor..." "They're right below it," Travis nodded. "Albert'll run like a rabbit." "But Mick won't," Mark said, "and he has a gun." "Scared?" Travis asked. "Sure, who wouldn't be?" Mark replied. "And remember, I promised Dad that we would only do surveillance, no capture stuff. That's why I called him on the way here. He'll be here in a few minutes." "Then why bother with this?" "Because Mick has that gun," Mark said, "and Dad will probably come in the front. That's just the way he is. We're going to cover the back." "You've really thought it through," Travis said, reluctant admiration in his voice. "I would have just charged right in." "We've been through this once or twice before," Mark said, remembering the time Sheriff Hadley had found him trapped, hanging upside down in a tree. They worked silently. First, they draped the cloth over a rod and tied the rod onto the hook of the pulley. Then, they secured the pulley to a length of rope so the pulley could be released from the side. "Mick will probably shoot at the cloth," Mark whispered. "We'll have to get out of range." Travis nodded. Below them, the men still paced, impatience evident in their restless movements. The boys finished their work and moved back into the nest of boxes. "Think Albert's really gonna buy it?" Travis sounded worried. "Sure, even Mick hasn't been able to talk him out of what he thinks he saw," Mark said. He settled back against a box to wait. Down below, even Albert had fallen silent. Car tires crunched on the shell road outside. Travis and Mark crawled to the edge of the loft and peered over. The garage door began to lift slowly, flooding the warehouse with sunlight. Mark shrank back, almost tripping over Travis. "Who is it?" "Eldridge, I think," Mark whispered. A dark figure silhouetted against the light stopped at the door. He got back into a Mercedes-Benz and drove into the warehouse. The car stopped and the man got out. "It's about time you got here," Mick said, looking at his watch. "I phoned you from the crossroads 15 minutes ago. Let's get moving. We've got to get out of town." "This all you have?" The man pointed at the 2 leashed dogs. "Yeah, it's a long story." Mick sounded angry. "Just pay us for these 2, the other shipment, and we'll be on our way." Mark touched Travis's arm as 3 shadows darted swiftly across the sunlit space and into the shelter of the warehouse. 2 wore uniforms, the other a suit. "Get into place," Mark whispered. Below, the men continued to argue. Eldridge began to count out money. "More," Nick snarled. "We had expenses on this job, see?" "But just 2 dogs? That hardly..." A bump from the window behind the boys sent them spinning around. "Maria Dolores," Mark exclaimed. "Quiet! You nearly scared me to death." "What's going on?" She crept up to them, almost tripping over the coil of rope. Travis scowled at her. How did you find us? I came with the others, silly, she whispered. Then why couldn't you have waited in the car like a good little girl? Maria Dolores leaned against his shoulder and smiled. Travis lost his balance. As he scrambled onto his knees, muttering, she took his place beside Mark. Travis glared at her and regained his hold on the rope. Maria Dolores crept to the edge of the loft and peered over. You owe us $2,000 for this operation, Mick was saying. It's not our fault it went sour. Are you planning to back out on us? Eldridge stepped back. Now, Mick, he said, take it easy. We can work something out, I'm sure. A man's voice boomed from the shadows. Don't bet on it. Drop that gun and put your hands up. Mick whirled and fired at the voice. The bullet echoed in the huge building. Now, Mark yelled. Travis yanked hard on the rope. The pulley shuddered and squeaked. It separated from its moorings with a high, shrieking wail of rusting machinery. Albert stared up at it, then leaped away from the other two men. Something white swooped out of the darkness. It swung toward them in a curving arc. Albert yelled and ran for the door. Don't shoot! Don't shoot! He shouted. I give up! Mick turned toward the onrushing attacker and emptied his gun at it. When the bullet seemed to pass right through the swooping white form, Eldridge ran after Albert. Only Mick stood his ground. The white form reached the end of its arc and swung back to the loft. Mark groaned. What now? I got it, muttered Maria Dolores. Too late, Mark tried to grab her. She hooked her legs over the railing and swung down to intercept the cloth on the pulley. For an instant, she held it, getting her aim. When she released it, the pulley headed straight for Mick. He held the empty gun tightly, ready to strike the intruder. The gun handle swished through the rotten cloth as the first folds enveloped the waiting man. Thud! The iron hook of the pulley grazed Mick's head. Mick crumpled to the floor. Yahoo! Mark and Travis clapped one another on the shoulder. We did it! Maria Dolores swung back into the loft. We? She said, black eyebrows raised like birds' wings. Yeah, we, Travis said, pounding her on the back. All of us. You kids get down from there, Sheriff Hadley's voice sounded like thunder. Mark! It was his dad's courtroom voice. Come here. Oops, Mark said softly. I think we're in trouble. He and Travis, followed by a quiet Maria Dolores, climbed down the ladder to the waiting men. The deputy was leading Albert and Mr. Eldridge away. Mick still lay stretched out on the floor of the warehouse. Hey, where's Skeeter? Travis yelled at Albert. Where's my dog? Albert stared at him. Hold on, son. One of the deputies pulled Travis away. If you're missing a dog, we'll find him when we sort this business out. Speaking of business, I thought I told you to stay out of police business, said Sheriff Hadley. Mark, you promised. Mr. Conley stopped. Maria Dolores, I thought you were waiting in the car. But Dad, Mark was interrupted by thumping on the side of the van. Hold on, Corey, Mark said. We're coming. The men helped release the tired boy. He struggled to his feet, then sat down abruptly as his legs began to fold under him. Here, Mr. Conley said, let's get him into my car. At the car, Mr. Conley hesitated. Clearly visible was a huge cat pawing at the air freshener that hung from the rearview mirror. Mr. Conley swung around to the sheriff's car. It was obviously already full, and the deputy had gone back for Mick. I'm sorry, Corey, he said. We found Samson in the deserted house, asleep on the floor. I'm afraid we'll have to keep him in the car with us. No problem, Corey gasped as they settled him in the back. Samson leaped up on the back of the seat to inspect Corey. The two stared at each other for a long minute. Neither budged. Then Samson lost interest in the boy and returned to his game with the dangling freshener. Come on, Travis, Mr. Conley said. We'll follow them back. He'd better still have my dog, Travis said as he slid into the back with Maria Dolores and Corey. From what I understand, they're all in Eldridge's Sarasota warehouse. None of them have been sent to pet shops yet. We should be able to pick him up tomorrow, Mr. Conley said. Let's go, Mark. Okay, friends, that's it for Chapter 14. Join me next time for Chapter 15, Crime Busters, Inc., and I will see you then. Bye.